The biggest compliments for me in the industry is not getting invited to the award shows. Some of them are cool, some of them are just the way they are.
Calculated.
Yeah.
KILLA podcast. KILLAofficial.com.
KILLA podcast live show. Step into the live and dangerous world of music and street culture's #1 magazine platform, the KILLA podcast live show. Special guests alongside performances, news, reviews, profile pieces to a live studio audience. Your monthly live stream is here. Hit Facebook page KILLA Official. THTC, the UK's leading ethical streetwear label. Organically grown and ethically built garments from hemp, organic cotton and other sustainable materials. 2019 is their 20th anniversary year. Join me with THTC as a KILLA podcast sponsor celebrating music, social activism, hemp and street culture. THTC, eco-fashion redefined since 1999. 101.4 FM, 24 hours a day, all genres.
FlexFM.co.uk.
Beatbox created.
KILLA.
And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
KILLA podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live, Central London, as central as you should be. This is the KILLA podcast on duty. It's that time again. Subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. Do not sleep on that. I repeat, do not sleep on that. Repeat. Okay, big shout out to Graffiti Kings, holding it down. And I thought we were going a little bit different this week. And when I say different, I mean for the better. Because this man, he's part of a fraternity that aims to change music for the better. He's part of a long generation of A&R reps, label types. This man, he's on the ball. And he does it. And he does it well. And he's a friend of mine. He goes by the name of Dan Jones. What's good, on, brother?
All good, all good.
Your first
You well?
podcast.
This is my first podcast, yeah.
A&R Island Records.
Indeed, yeah.
Huh? For those of you that don't know what A&R is, which I'm pretty sure a majority of you will do, we're going to get into some depths here, okay? We're going to go into some walks, which we probably haven't even brought up in previous shows, which I'm dead excited about.
All good, yeah.
And we often see each other mostly over a drink at a bar. What's Crowbar? That was the last one, wasn't it?
Crowbar was the last one, yeah. I love it in there, amazing. I mean, if you come from that world, it's just like heavy rock, metal. Yeah. That is a solid jukebox. The people in there know their metal.
Yeah,
they know
they
metal.
fucking know. Yeah. And you know what? As well, like you say, that era. It's an era, isn't it? In music, it's a style which leans towards that live venue-esque, dive bar-ish.
Like, I remember when 2003-04, when I was doing PR for My Chemical Romance, and they were playing at the LA2, like underneath the Astoria, and Death From Above 979, having a little gig there, and like we got...
That's a venue as well, but back in the day, that was...
Yeah, it was, and like I remember like the press had came in house. It was with Susie Ember, and before she's at Polydor now, but she was doing it, and we managed to get Gerard Way to kind of, as soon as he finished the gig, to go into the Crowbar and then do a live set in there. And I remember, like, it was packed, it was mad. And they did quite a few Danzig covers. They covered, like, Mother by Danzig. And it was just... Yeah, but in that... And it's mad, because I always go back there now and I see where My Chemical Romance, and I just think, whoa, no one will... Those moments... before social media, and it's like, that happened there. There's so many My Chem fans who go past and just be like,
don't even think about it twice as being a place of...
Yeah, they don't blink, and it's like, that went down, and it was a moment. Yeah.
That's mad, isn't it? You mentioned that you was into, that genre, the metal, the more rockier edges stuff, and your bro. Where did it all begin? Where did it all begin for you?
It all began for me as a press assistant at Warner Brother Records, and when I mean press assistant, this is... before social media. Like, I was really the guy in there who you'd literally get stacks and stacks of press that would come in over the weekend that would have ran on Green Day, the Chili Peppers, Madonna, R.E.M. That was kind of like, they were the acts that are holding up Warner's at that time.
What dates were we talking about here?
I started in August 2003. That's when I started.
Oh, yeah.
So we're talking Chili Peppers are just released, By the Way.
Sugar Babes were kind of surfacing in a pop world.
Yeah, they were there. Then there were they were via London Record. When I joined, it was WEA London Records, and then midway I was at Warner's between 2003 and 2008, and during that period, it went from WEA London to Warner Brother Records. Wow. Like it changed. I think it's when Corder Marshall came in, and he brought in Muse, Garbage, Ash, and they were part of Infectious, and that all became frontline UK repertoire. So it kind of all merged then, and that's when Green Day American Idiot came out. We had Deftones on the label, The Streets were on the label. Original Pirate Material came out.
That was London Records. Was it London Records?
679.
679.
So that flowed. That was one of the labels that flowed through WA London Warners. I've always been either lucky or gravitated towards those places that have one eye on culture and one eye on commerce. And I guess as a character, I'm like that as well. So I don't know whether or not that's a marriage of convenience or whether or not it's just one of those magnetism things that you just kind of end up flowing in, like down that river, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it starts with the integrity of like what you're in. I've always been that kind of character that likes music with balls. I like things that really stand for something. Anthrax, Public Enemy. When those guys came together and did it, fucking 11-year-old me I lost my shit. It's the whole idea of it like being
100%. And it's crazy because I remember being at Warner's at the time. We had Gallows at the time, and there was a lot of people excited about Gallows. And they did a cover with Lethal Bizzle at the time during the first wave of grime. And it's like, I remember at that time period, everyone, Enemy were mad for them, Krang were mad for them, and everyone's like, oh my God, this is the first time it's happened. And in my head I was thinking, Public Enemy, Anthrax? I started thinking of the Judgment Night soundtrack. I started thinking of all these moments.
Was it Onyx and... oh my God, this gonna. What was the name of it?
There was so many people on the soundtrack. Pearl Jam. There was all kinds of weird meshes of music, and then there was
Biohazard.
There was a Spawn soundtrack afterwards, which kind of had Tom Morello fusion with the Prodigy.
Crazy. Yeah. Shit, that was crazy.
Yeah, it was all sorts of stuff, and it's kind of like I'm always. My mind is blown how generations, and I don't mean like long. This can be like 3 years, then another 3 years. Like quickly forget the sort of frequency they're tapping into, the heritage they come from. They don't know the history of it.
Yeah.
And like for me, like I'm quite encyclopedic with that stuff. I'm like, whoa, like there's loads of stuff like back where you've came from, and this feels raw and it's new and it's a continuation of it, but it comes from a long line of that happening before. Yeah,
like you say, grime. I think, like you say, at that time, grime was really quite. They knew its lane. Yeah. So maybe that is what contributed to people's thoughts like that about it being a unique, new, selling thing. But collaboratively, it's surely like artists must get some sort of pleasure out of researching back. And I don't know, fashion has its way of coming around, doesn't it?
It's 100% cyclical.
If you actually wait for the train to pass again, you'll catch all the details and how things often play out, don't you?
Yeah, 100. Yeah, it's cyclical, but it's
cyclical. That's the word. See?
Yeah, it is.
That's what I bring people on for.
I think you need to reverse and have a look. You don't need to live in the past, but you definitely need to be able to kind of swing back to it, because there's a lot of positives. There's a lot of great things to learn, and some of the negatives are also great from learning. So, like my favourite Beastie Boy lyric is by MCA, God rest his soul, and it's track 5 on their 5th studio album, Hello Nasty. It's a tune called Just a Test, and he says, as long as I learn, I'll make mistakes. And I always loved that line. When I heard it, I was like, whoa, that's cold. That's such a line, because like we're all human, we all make mistakes, but as long as you're trying to evolve into a different plane or a different style, or use that in a positive way going forward, then keep doing that. Do you know what I mean? If you're just doing the same shit over and over again, then it's like, oh come on, man, this ain't good. But like if you're using that to move forward in a creative sense, then you tap into that. It's not a negative, because I always see myself as a student. Like there are certain people I know who through periods of time, for whatever reason, will be like, I've been in it a while, I'll take my time to speak to people and listen to them and try and help them on the journey if they need any help or whatever. But for me, I'm always still a student. I think whenever I pass away, hopefully it'll be a long time, like on the day that I die, I'll learn something. I'm going to still be learning. Like, even though people go, dude, like, however old you are, I'll just be like, I've still got so much to cram in. Do you know what I mean? I still want to learn from the craft.
Yeah. In those early days when you were, like you were saying, I guess were you more under the arm of a lot of other A&Rs when you first started?
To be fair, I started in the press department. Like for A&R, I never wanted to be an A&R.
Yeah.
Like there's a guy called Kenny McGough. And to be fair, the first guy there's two guys who believed that I had what it took to be an A&R. One of them was Dan Keelan, who's the guy who signed Coldplay.
Right.
He was at Parlophone, and then he went to Ireland. And another guy was Paul Brown, who was the guy who signed Niles Barkley and Pendulum. And both of them were like, your energy, the way you see music, the way like you're constantly like
the integrity that you held.
They just liked the questions I was asking, and like I would just come in open-handed. Like some people are quite guarded with their information because they're like, oh, I want to be the person who's giving this. Whereas for me, I was like, I'll always find it, or I'll always have an opinion, or I'll always have a view. So for me, like, it's not like I've got one idea. Like I'm constantly coming up with ideas. So I'm like, I may as well share them because I might not know what to do with all my ideas.
Yeah. Was that an intentional thing on your part, or was it just out of pure interest that you'd give off that energy, and you know the people around you are like, yo, you should try this, you should do this. This could be your vocation.
I just think like if I'm with the right people, they get the right version of me, and I think that's part of life. I think if you're with people who understand you, and for me as a teenager, it was always a quest of being understood. And it's funny because in the industry there'll be lots of different versions of me. There'll be certain people who don't know me really well who go, oh, I know him, he's a bit of a laugh, that northern dude, blah, blah, blah. And then there'll be other people who go, no, I know that dude, he's deep, he's not one-dimensional, he's cerebral, he thinks about things, he's always on. Do you know what I mean? But it depends what journeys they've been through with me, or whether or not they know like characters like me and go, he's like one of them, so he's one of those characters. Do you know what I mean? And that all depends on how people read you. Do you know what I mean? I get it. When it happens the same when people try and give you a sort of lookalike. When people, I think you look like this, and then someone else goes, I think you look like this, and it's miles apart. And you're like, what? That always makes me think, because I don't really listen to any of it. I just kind of giggle at it all, but I'm just like, what do people see? Like, what are people? What do you think a lot of it is seeing out there? What is people's perception?
Do you think it's people's perceptions that are based on the things that they're clearly about things that they've lived through? And then you suddenly sharpen their lives and you give value on a certain level that you probably wouldn't have given value to another person. But those people have come in at a time where they either need you, they associate you with something else that makes them turn you to look-alikey, or oh, he's deep because he told me about so-and-so when I needed it most. Do you know what I mean? I think it's all about it's the person that you come across.
I think it's the biggest compliments I've been getting. The biggest compliments for me in the industry is not getting invited to the award shows. Some of them are cool. Some of them are just the way they are.
Calculated.
Yeah. It's just it's not that stuff. The biggest rewards for me that I took was when I remember, like, when you're young, you kind of you can feel snubbed at certain things. You want to be involved because you feel like you've got a lot to give, but you're not senior enough to be invited to certain meetings. You're like, oh, I could kill it in that meeting, but when the bits that I take from it is like when, like Serge from Kasabian, when I work with them, like I might not be invited to certain things, but before the album came out, he'll start texting me. He'd be like, "It's coming. You ain't ready for it. Wait for it." And I'd be like, and he changes his number all the time. So sometimes I was like, "Who's this?" I'm like, it's Serge. It's Serge. Do you know what I mean? But I know what's happening with those texts. Do you know what I mean? And then eventually I'll get to hear it. And I know for a fact that it doesn't matter how often we talk, how frequent it is, like I know he's waiting for my opinion on the record, and he wants my opinion on the record. Do you know what I mean? And like Plan B would be the same with things. I remember like he would ask me things and it would be like, this guy's not going to bullshit me. If this guy doesn't like it, why doesn't he fucking like it? Do you know what I mean? And for me, like, that was the greatest compliment in the world. Like, when I signed Kano, there was a few people trying to sign him around the time of just before Made in the Manor, and Plan B and me were trying to do it. We helped make a few songs on that record, and I couldn't do it in the spot where I was at, and then I moved and I did it somewhere else. But the reason why I ended up doing it, Rich and Kane were just like, you were always there. You were there for the right reasons. And it was before it's kind of the second wave of grime. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, you're an amazing poet. You're a poet, no different to Alex Turner.
Diction's so good as well.
Like you're just a poet. Do you know what I mean? It's not about being an MC, even though I think he's the best MC out there. Like from the UK point of view, but for me, it's like he's a poet. He's got a narrative. He knows how to tell a story. Do you know what I mean? Like Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle, Ricky Gervais, Russell Brand. Like they're all observational psychologists in a way. For me, Kane's the same.
He's just, he
Do you know what I mean?
reflects
Made
the
in a Man,
streets.
Hoodies All Summer. They're all kind of conceptual records that don't really warrant a chart position because they're just there to be tapped into whenever you need to tap into, just to go, what was going on in 2019? I listened to this Kane, that was going on, but it must have been going on between 2016 to 2019.
True.
Do you know what I mean? And
True.
then what was going on before? Do you know what I mean? And that's why I always like Kane, because he hasn't ever compromised his sound for commerce. He's just told his journey, and because he's a good storyteller, people will turn up for the journey.
It feels evergreen as well. Whenever you hear a story of a bit like Nas Illmatic, it's like you can still put it on and it'd be like, yeah, it resonates. Of it, not just an era, because shit doesn't really change out there. So like you were saying about the 2016 to 2019 thing, okay, yeah, but this still has relevance in 2020.
Yeah, it's like I listened to Ice Cube Death Certificate, and that to me is
major album.
Yeah, that record for me was just like you could read a book on the history of the Troubles in LA at that time, but if you're not into reading, and I love reading, but if you're not into it, just put on Death Certificate by Ice Cube because it's there. It is.
Yeah.
There it is. Do you know what I mean? It's just like an audio book. Do you know what I mean? Just put on Death Certificate. That album is. Might listen to it tonight.
Yeah,
that's a heavy album.
I think there's a couple of albums. I mean, like this is a very broad subject we're getting into, but you know, in terms of hits and good albums, strong albums, things that take it all the way. And we did speak about this before. You know, across the road with Red Hot Chili Peppers. What defines a classic to an A&R's ear? What defines, you know, what makes all the components work for you?
It's difficult because for me, what I think is a perfect record might not be a perfect record. And I'll qualify that. Like if someone said to me, during the period you were a music publisher, what was the favourite song that you were involved in? And I would say, I don't know, I don't listen to it that often, but when I hear it, I just think, wow, what a moment. It was a song by Paolo Nutini called Iron Sky, and it's the first song, and might be the only song that actually has sign-off from Charlie Chaplin's estate, because they used an element of what he was about. And I signed Paolo Nutini's guitarist, Dave Nelson, and Dave Nelson co-wrote the song with Paolo. And I remember that time Adele, she tweeted, and she must have tweeted it, because I don't think, she's on Instagram, I don't follow on Instagram, but like she tweeted it, and she was like, wow, basically like, wow, like check it out. And that performance, and it was his performance at Abbey Road of that song, like you could play that now, anyone, whoever's listening or watching, Paolo Nutini, Iron Sky, watch him.
Paolo Nutini.
That song, like, and I'm left. Do you know what I mean? I grew up with some heavy stuff, but like Paolo Nutini, Iron Sky. Tell me in the delivery of that song at Abbey Road that he isn't in that moment. He's lost. He's not even there. He's not even in that moment. That guy is shredding. Like he's like a conduit for a message.
Fire, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that song didn't really connect, but for me, that's a perfect moment. I'm like, that's a true moment. That song, you're owning that song like true. This is Al Green. This is, for me, it was channeling like a whole lineage of just soul and blues. And like, I was like, wow, this is big. Do you know what I mean? In terms of commercial success, I mean, I've had all sorts of success from all kind of different range of artists. I mean, I remember when I signed Tayo Cruz's publishing at the time, and I haven't really spent that much time with Tayo, but I knew Jamie Binns, his manager. We had a club night together in Notting Hill. He told me that the deal was available, and I'd just joined EMI Music Publishing, and a lot of the conversation is we need more top-line writers, and Tayo had his ear to the ground that time. Do you know what I mean? And Darkest Bees had signed him at Island Records, where I'm at now, coincidentally. And obviously Darkest had put him in with a lot of people because he was working with Tinchy Strider. He was in with McFly. I mean, they're all like island artists. So obviously Darkest must have definitely been pulling the strings there and connecting all of that for his artists. But knowing that he's a good top-line writer. So for me, I looked at that and thought, why wouldn't... It's not really my world, but I appreciate this guy's got an ear and an eye for the craft of writing a top line and writing a catchy, hooky top line. So, like, he was my first big ever signing. I didn't really spend that much time with him, but that for me was looking around, seeing what opportunities are there, and knowing that Jamie, who was a friend of mine at the time, who manages Paloma Faith and he manages LRA, and he does really well for himself, but he brought that opportunity to me, and I having sat through all the A&R meetings, listening, going, what's a top line writer? What is a top line? Like, what is it they're after? And just listening, and then when I heard time, look, it's not my vibe, but it feels like this is an EMI music publishing signing. So I did my duty and I did the deal. And to be fair to Ty, he went on and he wrote a couple of big songs for David Guetta just before EDM really exploded, and those songs became massive copyrights. One's Little Bad Girl with Ludacris, and the other one Without You with Usher. So they became massive copyrights. So then you can look like a sort of genius, because it's like, whoa, you've got this vision
across different
and like he was ASCAP Singer Songwriter of the Year, which is a big deal in publishing, 2 years in a row. But obviously, I signed him. So like, but the culture of what it was about wasn't really me. But in terms of what I had to do in that job, like I was like, at the time, there's no better kind of top line writer than him. Do you know what I mean? He can put himself in any situation and he'll come out with a song. So for me, like, the general public wanted those sort of songs. It's not what I wanted, as I've just said with Paolo. Like, some of the things that I gravitate towards and like as a moment in time, because like I'm not the biggest Paolo Nutini fan, but that for me is a song to be proud of. Isn't like, whoa, like that's a songwriter that I signed who wrote that moment. I can be proud of that moment. That's something that was my musical journey, is proud of that little moment. That it doesn't really connect with that many people, but the people who know that song will know, like, that's a song. That's a song. That is a song. Do you know what I mean? That's not like a commercial pop moment. That I challenge people to write one of them.
How often do you find those, the golden nuggets when they arrive, and like you say, they're loaded with energy and you can just feel the heart? How often? A more broader question is, how often do you receive that? Like, so if you receive a bunch of shit a month, how much of it is gold? How much of it is that?
There's a lot in terms of creativity, like gold is in 5% out of 100. 5% out. In terms of you're dealing with, like, Rob Swire from Pendulum and Knife Party for me is one of those 5%ers.
Yeah, always guaranteed.
Enigmatic, creative, innovator. He's not a copycat. He's just tuned.
He's a study. He's a study of
tuned into a different channel. What he's creating, like that whole scene for EDM for me, like what Rob Swire did was, there was a lot of other people around at the same time who I feel were more PRable. They were more sociable. They were more in the circles and saw what he was doing and did their version of it and made a lot more commercial success from it.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Do you know what I mean? But they were all drinking from his. I went and I was in that scene quite a lot. I signed Nero, obviously did Pendulum, I did Knife Party, and then a lot of people were bringing me stuff, and I was like, I don't really need it because I've got.
You got a creme.
I've got that. I don't need this.
A big up Gareth as well.
Yeah, and they're geniuses.
For real.
But like for me, I always tapped it. And Joe Oakley, who's a very good friend of mine, who managed them and managed Chase and Status, so I later went on to sign. Like he knew it, and he himself is like, everyone who's worked with Joe knows, like, he's a manager, and like he's been ill for a bit with like ME, and like he's amazing, he's getting better, but it's a slow process with that illness. But like he's a force, and like I miss that force, because as a management force, he was an intellect, he was smart, he was clever, he drove fear through a label. You had to deliver for Joe. And I think there's a lot of having great management, so important. Having a manager who can drive fear through a record label.
So they come in and
make the record label deliver on behalf of the artist. That's so important.
So what's the science
so
behind that?
underrated.
Because that's a very interesting point you make there, because some people command a red carpet.
Yeah.
Others are just like, well, they're just passing through. Yeah, we'll pass through your office and give you a wave, kind of thing. It's different when, like you say, there is a real, iron fist coming through the fucking place. What's that feeling within the office? What's it feel like?
You want to deliver. Like, everyone wants to be successful. Where I'm at now, Island Records, and this isn't a PR in Ireland. It's just where I am. It's why I decided to go there. Like, it's got the balance right. It's an amazing place that has duty of care for the staff, for the artists. It's everyone gets every point. There's not like I'm one of the older characters there. Do you know what I mean? And for me, like,
He's a young boy as well.
Yeah, it's mad me thinking that, but like everyone's aware of the points of reference. Everyone gets it. Do you know what I mean? If a video's played, everyone gets the points. Everyone gets the cultural points of references. Everyone knows the lineage. Everyone goes, I get it.
They're just on it.
I get where that comes from. It's kind of like if someone's looking at a mood board, people get it. People go, oh, I get it. It's Wes Anderson meets X, Y, and Z, and it's like that's just there.
Does the lineage, does that diminish or shrinken with every genre and every artist that comes in and tries to break the mould? Like, is it harder for you as an A&R or a marketeer for that matter to not pigeonhole but to try and find the space within a person's record collection that is like, yeah, that fits there? Does it get harder?
What was the question? Does it get harder?
So if you've got like a team and they see an artist come along, and the first thing they're thinking is, okay, right, they've got their shit sorted out, but just in terms of marketability and A&Ring, how do we fit it into the, because the genres, they're changing, they're constantly moving like plates, and like sometimes the genres are so overnight, aren't they? You've just got to try and find that place in a person's record collection. How tough is it to find that place in the marketing and A&R sense for an artist?
There's definitely what's a realism is that there's windows of opportunity, as you've just said, and you can sign something. I'll try and sign things at the beginning of that window and then try and find their way to market, right or wrongly. Do you know what I mean? I've been in places before like, oh, it's another artist development thing. It's another artist development thing. We need that instant. Do you know what I mean? I've had some instant things. Like Tyler Cruz was like the greatest instant win ever. Like all the songs he wrote were just instant, and they went out. Yeah. But then I've had longer burns. I remember signing this guy called Bruno Major, amazing talent, unbelievable. I don't work with him now, but like I have an affinity with him. I check in with him, and like he's such a purist. He's a prodigy. He's unbelievable. He's a polymath. He's aware of everything. He's so talented. His brothers with Dot, who's in London Grammar, like they're unbelievable. If you go to their flat in Camden, it's just this mad creative hub, and there's an energy there. And it's like he's one of those artists that is on a journey and he's doing it. But I don't think you can put major label metrics on whether or not he is breaking, is a commercial success, because he's just creating art all the time. And there's like, it must be difficult to, from an artist point of view, to be in a system where you're suddenly in this game where you've got to have this commercial success, and it's like snakes and ladders. Whereas if you're in a situation where, and there are signings like this, there's signings where, and it depends on how much you sign for, what the financial pressure is, where...
Oh,
like,
the back end's crazy as well,
yeah,
right?
if there's a reasonable deal done, and there's no financial pressure on the deal, it can be like, right, this is a real artist development deal. We'll get there when we do. We'll spend accordingly.
But is that a lot of expectations, though, on an artist? When you get a development thing?
If there's a heavy financial deal, there'll be an expectation on it. Sometimes some of those deals are done because they're so immediate, so everyone knows it's a win, or it's already happening. When I joined, a lot of the deals... When I started in 2003, a lot of the deals were all development deals, and then now more so than ever, like TikTok can blow up a song. You kind of get in America a lot. TikTok blow TikTok will blow up a song, it'll start flying, and then the deal will go to astronomical figures. But it's happening. Radio are playing it.
Crazy.
It's there. So you're just amplifying what's happening.
Yeah.
You're just like, we're going to come in, we're going to offer this money, then we're going to amplify it, and we'll see what happens. So with ours, like, even though it's a risk to pay a lot of money, it's a calculated risk because there's already revenue coming in. So in that sense, like, some people go, oh my God, so-and-so. I remember, like, when I was younger, like, A&Rs were always obsessed with what other people paid for the deal. And I would always say, I couldn't care less what people think I paid for a deal. Like, I believe in it. So I could pay 10 pence to sign someone, which I never would, or 50 million pounds, which again I never would. It's irrelevant. If I believe in it, if the people who are backing me believe in it, doesn't matter. What you pay for it is irrelevant. And that to me is art. And you won't find a more honest expression of art. It's like, how much do you want to pay for this Banksy? I don't really like it. This. How much do you want to pay for this Banksy? Oh, it's a Banksy.
Yeah, totally. It's
Like,
state
and
opinion,
that's this particular Banksy. How much are you selling it for? This, I'll pay it. I might pay a bit more. So it like, if you believe in art and you like it, you pay whatever you want to pay for it. If you're solely looking at it for business metrics, then that dictates a different fee.
Totally.
Because you're like,
Totally.
what do we think this genre earns? What do we think the return on this genre is? Where is this artist in the genre? Is they sort of at the bottom? Are they in the middle? Are they at the top? Are they the innovators? Are they the ones? That's what we pay. And that's kind of the game summed up.
You hear what's going on here? You hear what's
Summed
going
up
on here?
like that.
Knowledge, man.
Yeah,
Fucking
yeah.
knowledge. And it takes art in itself. Like, you've got to be... As an A&R, there's a calculative decision you have there.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so where's this coming in? I love it. But how do we free up certain things to make this happen? Or, you know, what taking the integrity into account, like, how do we steer this so it's in the right place? So like you say, no one gets upset about something for the back end, or no, you know, because if it's a development deal, then normally that works in favour for the artist to begin with, but then it slowly dawns on the label that they may not want to put more energy in because they didn't put so much finance in them, and then there's the vice versa of that. If you put in a lot of money in as a label, you know, there's an expectation from the label that the artist delivers. That takes a lot of spinning plates on your part, isn't it? You know what I mean? That must be a complete you must be used to it now. But you know what I'm saying? Submission, it's crazy.
What, in the process of when you're doing a deal?
Just making that, just being an A&R and loads of different variables coming into play, and you've got to kind of almost like, you've just got to go with the flow and just park it up.
A&R is when I was younger, I'd say the first 10 years, like, I really took things personally. I felt the emotion of decisions. Like, I never wanted to... Guy Moot, who was the guy who brought me into the A&R world with Kenny McGough at AMI, he would always go to me, get used to going to bed with at least one person not liking you or the decision you've made today. And I was like... I won't be able to sleep if I'm like, that dude, or she hates me. Like, what? Because of a decision that's out of my hands, but I've had to deliver the news. Like, I want to go, is it all right? But then over time, you realise that, like, it's all right for people to be fucked off with you for a month. Do you know what I mean? You if they're fucked off with you for a year because they're pissed that you dropped them or you did that, they could be pissed off with you forever because... They had a trust in you that you were never going to let them down, and now you're delivering the news that they never thought you were going to deliver. So you just have to stand by the decision, or you have to fight against it so you don't make that decision. Do you know what I mean? I remember once there was an act that I ended up signing, and this was part of that journey where I felt the emotion at the time, I'm not going to lie, but like over time I've learned how to kind of be like, I've got a duty of care of the artist that I'm working with, that you just got to keep going, you got to keep focused, you can't take things personally. It's like...
Artists are sensitive as fuck,
business is
man.
business,
like, they are super sensitive and...
But it's how they get the information. So there was an act.
Okay.
There was an act that was signed to us on the publishing side and on the record side, and everyone thought they were going to do really well. And the record company paid X amount of money, the publishers paid X amount of money. It did not achieve what everyone wanted it to achieve. The record company renegotiated down. So they made a cheaper deal, but to stay in business with them. It was important for that act and the manager to stay in business with the record company to drive the rest of the business. We wanted to do the same move on the publishing side. It's like, we know the record company have negotiated down. We have to do the same thing because we've made such a financial loss. We can't afford to keep losing money. But we believe in the act, so we want to stay in the act. No, we need all the money. We need all the money. And I was like, we can't do it. We've done whatever model we can do. We can't do it. Anyway, time passes. The people in the upper echelons of where I was working at the time, which is not where I'm working now, were like, we've made this offer. It's been out for almost a year. Why haven't they taken it? This offer can't stay out. There's new acts coming through. We can't deprive the new acts of resources and funds. Do you know what I mean? We've got to keep going. So obviously this conversation had. Then suddenly, that we want to take the offer. But in that year, the person who ran the company was like, nothing's going on with this act. Because how have they suddenly gone, no, and then gone, yeah, we'll take it. So why spend any money at all? So we ended up dropping them. Now, when we dropped them, I went to the manager, please, can I go and see the act? I want to explain that I have fought for them. I've had this offer on the table for a year. I've tried to create opportunities. We give you back the album you've made. I want to help. Yeah. Just let me speak to them, and then I'll give you the opportunity to speak to them. He never came back on when he did it. And then I met this act. I remember coming back from a James Bay gig when we were looking at him in St. Stephen's Church in Shepherd's Bush, walking to Bush Hall for some food with Luke McGrellis and David Ventura, who I was working with at the time. And the act was walking towards me.
Oh, shit.
And I remember thinking, I haven't seen them, so I was like, hey, how's it going? All good? Is everything well? How's the second album coming on? And they were like, good. And I was like, how's everything else? Yeah, good. And I was like, who's producing the record? What's going on? The second album's coming on, okay. And it was just, it was like that. And at the time, I was like, and I remember going back afterwards, and David and Luke were like, that's a bit shit, because we know how much you believed in the act. We know how hard you fought, because we were in all those meetings when you were fighting to save them. But all they'll know is, you fucking...
Is that a communication point from the management side?
They'll be like, you let us down, and you didn't have our back. And I was like, I've never been able to tell that act that. Do you know what I mean? And maybe that act, if someone ever listens to this, still might work out who they are. But
we won't, for sensory reasons, we aren't going to say the name.
Yeah, I can't say the name. And it was one of them where I was like, right, everyone's got their own agenda, everyone does it. But in the end of the day, people are like, well, there'll be people who just be like, well, if they didn't commercially deliver, who gives a shit? But for me, going back to the point we were having about the Chili Peppers earlier on, you never know when an artist is going to connect with the general public. If anyone can tell you that, it's a straight lie. Nobody knows. You invest in the creative talent and you hope that you can keep investing in it for as long as you can, and because you believe in them and you know at some point they're going to find that moment where they write that evergreen song which the general public will connect with, and that will be what they're defined by.
That's right.
And that's the journey. And like a lot of people don't know how to have these conversations to kind of get to the crux of what creativity is and where it falls within like a corporate structure.
Yeah, that's right. Was it Jeff Zutton and Geffen that signed Guns N' Roses, and that whole period was just like year after year. I mean, it took like 2 years before before Paradise City and Sweet Child of Mine came about, right? Even back then, there's a level of development that you just got. And does that come from? It's not just the music; it's just your fondness for the band and their brand and the people within it. Did that govern your determination? You know, if you know someone's a dickhead, then you're not gonna. You know, you're gonna put maybe like 60% on, but their music's great. But if they're nice people and their music's good and everything's steering in the right direction, does that make a bigger difference?
I'd like to think all the artists I've worked with are just lovely creative souls. But I think when you're dealing with creativity, like it can start off all nice, but you've got to be real. There's arguments along the way. There's no way you can work in any industry if you're passionate about what you do. There will be a point where decisions have to get made, and like when you're dealing with lots of people who've got lots of opinions, who all care just as much as each other, who've all got great taste palettes, who all see different things from different points of references, trying to get to that middle ground. And ultimately it's the artist. The artist dictates everything. Nobody who works on my side of the business are nothing without artists and creatives. We're nothing. There's no point in us. We don't exist in... those artists can... What you need a label for ultimately is driving the machine to media, driving the machine to the people. Someone's got to be able to go, this is the best. We're standing behind the best. Everyone, check out this. And that's what is needed. But ultimately, the artist will create their own art. There are periods in time where if you want to stagger it to have maximum gain, there is a point when you like, hold that song back and don't release it now and release it later on once you've got a bigger audience to do that song justice. Because if you release it early and it gets lost and then you lose traction early on and it doesn't ignite again, I've seen it across the board, not just with people I've worked with, but countless artists I haven't worked with, that like, you go, oh, they were great. What happened to them?
The other way around.
And you look and you go, they should have held that back, or they shouldn't have done that, or like it went too early. And like there is a pattern to it, and that's why I go back and check it, because there is a pattern. Or certain bands or acts or DJs or producers aren't ready for the machine, for the beast of what the music industry is. I mean, if you read Motley Crue, The Dirt, there's a bit in all the craziness of that book. There's actually a kind of guide to corporate structure in that book when they're talking about the wheel and being the cog, and when you come off the wheel and you can't get off the wheel. Once that wheel's turning, you can't get off.
That's you, yeah.
There's no way off. And obviously I've watched the Avicii documentary, and what wonderful, wonderful talent he was. And I think I think everyone should watch that and just see what it is when you join, because it's bigger than music. Once you join the world of entertainment and mass media and constant scrutiny and constant pressure to kind of deliver and ultra competitiveness within your other peers, because some people live for competition, they want to win. Like certain people can't imagine what it must be like.
Industry
being
as much as artists.
Yeah, and some people I can't imagine what it must be like being a football manager. How do they deal with that constant pressure? Because they're like, one day they win, the next day they lose the next game, they're sacked. Like, and they know that's the pattern. But, and obviously, look, they know that's the pattern. But the point is some people live for that. Some people love that. That's what that's what they are as an entity.
It's laden with hindsight, isn't it? Like
other people aren't. Other people are just true, beautiful creatives who just have a gift, and they haven't thought about the other stuff. They're just going, I'm going with the talent that I've inherited, or that's in the genes, or that I'm channeling, and then this other stuff comes along.
Yeah. Well, from an artist point of view? You mean from an artist point of view?
Yeah, look, there'll be artists.
Liam Gallagher, I think holds that. There's a charm about him. I don't think for a second he thinks too far into the mechanics of the back end. He's just kind of like, he embodies that. You know what I mean? And that's what he is. You know what I mean? He's that kind of guy. I would imagine.
He's a purist. But the one thing I'd say about Liam is I look at the campaigns that Warner Brothers have done on the last two, and they're great. And what's great about them is Liam's 100% engaged in that. Like, I don't know because I'm not involved, but it doesn't look like he's missed a promo opportunity.
I agree.
To sell his new music.
Yeah. And his new music,
he's turning up, and that's part of it. Like, even though Liam is like an absolute musical don, and he definitely had a huge imprint. I was a teenager when Oasis came out, and I was into metal and hip hop, and it was the Verve that kind of got me, Richard Ashcroft from the Verve, that got me into that. But by the time Be Here Now came out, which a lot of pure Oasis fans are like, I like What's the Storm? Be Here Now was the album that won me over, because for me, the first two records, I was like, the songwriting's great. Noel Gallagher sits alongside Paul McCartney and John Lennon, but the second album for me just felt a bit more psychedelic and a bit more with the sonics that I was into. And when I first heard, you know what I mean, I kind of know it's gonna sound like a Pulp record. And when it came out, it was this really elongated, proggy, like drawn out, like kind of rock tune. I was like, yo.
Yeah, I know
What's
elements of it.
this?
I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? And like Fading Out, which is track 7 on that record, has Johnny Depp playing slide guitar, and that's a proper rock jam, that tune. And I was
That's
like,
crazy. Is that a fact? So he's on there?
Johnny Depp plays slide guitar on that song. Yeah, and it's like that tune is like it's just a vibe. Do you know what I mean? It's not like check out this. Like it's no one's. It's not. It's just a vibe. Do you know what I mean? But like, it's a groove, and like sometimes I had this conversation with someone recently. It's like the way DSPs are now, you've got to get into the song straight away. If people aren't hooked in,
DSP, what's that?
Amazon, Spotify,
Gotcha. Okay.
all the sort of
Gotcha.
partners, like digital service providers.
There you
All of those peeps. Like, it's like instant. Everything's instant. If you're ill, I'm ill. I'll take some of these. Like, I'm better. Like, everything is instant now, and it's like, what's happening to the? Could Pink Floyd exist now?
That's what I'm thinking. Can Bowie?
Do you know what I mean? Listen,
Radiohead.
that first song once on Pearl Jam 10, like it takes about 2 minutes or a minute and a half to get started. It's just this whirling, kind of ethereal,
Big tunes.
yeah, and then it kicks in. But you couldn't have that now. Do you know what I mean? And Fading Out to me by Oasis, that is a groove. It's a jam. It's just a riff that just keeps. It just keeps riffing out, and it's just like, it's not like an Oasis classic. It's not like a snappy 3.5 minute chorus melody. It's just a vibe.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what drew me into Oasis. Was like, they've got this other side. I know they can write nice contemporary rock songs, but they've got an edge.
Yeah.
And they always had that. Like,
You need those tunes
Yeah,
that-
Bring
to
It On
define that.
Down,
Yeah.
Columbia. Like,
Yeah.
they always,
Yeah.
that's, and Supersonic. Those are 3 songs off Definitely Maybe that I connected to. Like, I was into metal and rock at the time, and I connected to. And on What's the Story, Morning Glory, it was Morning Glory. I was like, that fucking dun 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 dun. That, I was like, whoa, this, I like it. But
Riffs, you know.
just
yeah.
the energy. The energy for me, I was like, if I was to connect with any Oasis songs that have got a bit of my energy on them, they're the tunes.
Yeah.
It's like, roll with it. And I was like, I can't stand Roll With It. Like, do you know what I mean? Even now, I don't like that song.
I'm a
'cause
big
just
rock and
like,
roll star. I like that tune. I like rock and roll.
Yeah, that's got
star.
swag. Cigarettes and Alcohol's got
Yeah.
swag too. But for me, the groove is supersonic. It just like had this hypnotic groove. Like the psychedelia of Columbia was just, it had a thing. But yeah, like Roll With It, I was like, I'm not having this at all.
We're talking about songs that have surpassed like decades, and that ultimately is the biggest result and mission, I guess, for any A&R. I mean, talking about Red Hot Chili Peppers and thinking, like you were saying earlier, and thinking back to like, would that person actually be making money who signed fucking Red Hot Chili Peppers? Probably not. But then doesn't the heritage and the longevity of it, that makes up for that, doesn't it? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's go back to what I said. You never know when you're going to make it. And I guess with Chili Peppers, like when they originally signed, they had 3 or 4 albums where you could tell they were fans of Parliament and Funkadelic. And I remember chatting to Johnny Cigarettes, who at the time, like, if any act wins an NME award, the NME award is that.
Yeah.
And like, it's his hand doing that.
No way.
Johnny Cigarettes.
Yes,
He's a journalist, and he was married to Phoebe Sinclair, who's Red Hot Chili Peppers PR.
Right.
So when I joined Warner Brothers, I got to meet him through that. And I remember having a chat with him, and he said to me at the time, if you rewound back when Chili Peppers released their first album and their second album, and if you rewind back to when Green Day released Dookie, and if you told me, because literally Red Hot Chili Peppers were playing a couple of dates at Hyde Park, and Green Day American Idiot was taking off, and I was at Warner during that time. I mean, if you were to tell me that in the future, these 2 bands were going to be the biggest musical exports out of America, every single journalist would just cry laughing. Do you know what I mean? And it's like he's like sometimes like you live in this complete surreal world where like you're just like, what? But from an A&R point of view,
Yeah, I was
you've
going to
got
say.
to know that
Yeah,
from
you've got to
day
forecast
one.
it.
You've got to go,
Yeah.
in 25 years' time, this person's going to be selling out Wembley Arena. Like, you've got to know that now. And, like, all the decisions where you're making, you're thinking now, but you're thinking 25, 10, 30. You're thinking legacy. You're thinking, are they going to evolve? Is something going to happen in their life that will influence them to write that? Or when that happens, is that going to be the creative spark for them to go, yo, and it's that's the challenge. That's the challenge.
I remember like Snoop Dogg when he first came out. You know, there was the whole. I think he did a DVD box set or something. A Murder Was the Case, and he was
yeah,
actually
I've
getting
got the
charged.
DVD.
You
Yeah,
know what I mean,
I've still got
Big
DVDs.
Star newspaper said, "Get this bastard out," you know, because he came to the, tried to come over and do some shows, and the country wasn't having it. God damn it!
Yeah.
But then, as an A&R, if you were in those shoes and you were trying to forecast the show, I mean, nothing is better than that kind of sensation,
Yeah.
right? From a marketing point of view, but you meet these people that you sign, or people sign. Do you think to yourself? Do you still think then that there's a longevity? Would you imagine that Snoop Dogg would suddenly chill the fuck out? The ganja laws would be like restrained, and then all of a sudden it's like everything's chilled. All of a sudden, like you can.
I mean,
smoke
no
those,
one has that crystal ball. But what I would say with Snoop Dogg is like the energy he's got now. I wasn't there back then when he was doing those meetings, but he would have had an energy where people go, yeah.
He's going to do this anyway.
Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying about Bruno Major. When I met him, there's a guy called Will Ward who was my scout, but he was originally a Black Butter. He now still works at Black Butter. He went to PMR, who's like great guy. Like he was the first guy who played me Bruno. And as soon as I heard it, I went, this kid's got it. This kid is so crazy. Can write in any genre.
Energy,
like
innit?
complete. Like can just hone in on the craft. Like if he was a director, he'd be one of those people where you're like, dude, he does horror, but he does action, but fuck, he does really heartfelt romance stories as well. Like, he can do the lot. That's why I said kid's a prodigy. He's a polymath. He can do whatever. I'd believe that, like, songwriter, there's a frequency, and people have a gift and they tap into that frequency. I know it sounds trippy.
No, it's true.
But they tap into that frequency, and whoever's tuning in on that day receives a
It's
certain
like a well
song.
that they go into.
Or a kind of, or an energy of,
Yeah.
I'm going to write a love song today. I want to write a rock anthem, or feeling chilled today. I'm just going to write a nice little, do you know what I mean? And like, they tap into that. Do you know what I mean? I've definitely read or heard an interview with Bono from U2 where I'm sure it was along the lines of like he was annoyed that he wasn't tuned in or writing when Noel Gallagher received Wonderwall. It's kind of like that energy. I don't know if someone told me that or whether or not, but I remember like the idea of that sticking in my head of like, yeah, I could have heard that as a U2 song, but like it was one of them as in like they're in there and someone taps in,
opens the door and takes the thing, and
Yeah.
I love that. Actually, that's a great analogy, isn't it?
And you don't know what people are listening to. Like, my brother posted something today on Instagram about the new Pearl Jam song, and he was kind of like, oh, it sounds like they've been listening to Devo and Kate Bush. And I literally listened to 2 seconds of it and was like, sounds like they've been binging out on Talking Heads. Literally. Do you know what I mean? And then Niall Doherty, who works at Q Magazine, I saw liked it. And then a couple of other guys who work at Krang liked it because they were just like, that's what I'm hearing. That
you've got to
like
push
for
the
me was them
boundaries,
going,
right?
I'm hearing that.
Yeah.
I'm hearing they're listening to Talking Heads.
You've got to push the boundaries, though. How hard is that for an A&R? Like, when all of a sudden you get presented with an album or a song and you're like, oh, how am I going to explain this? I mean, you're based on honesty. You know, you're based on... That's what people come to you as an A&R for.
Yeah.
But how often are you faced with that where you really got to think, okay, this is great, but it's not in the same category as, like, what they had before? How do you process that?
You're better than this.
Those are the words?
So you're better than this.
Yeah.
Like, I like the vibe, I like the energy, but you're just better than this. You know you are. Like, I think if you're hitting it from honesty like that from the off, and it's not BS, then like, it's just easy to do other things. It's harder to be truthful if you come from a place of non-truth to start off with.
Yeah, people know you as being the go-to guy of honest
and definitely
upfront,
where I'm at now, I'm just like, there's no like. How can you lie about creativity? Like I'm not a very good liar. Like if you ask me a question, I'll be like, oh, you'll tell.
Dope. Yeah.
I'll sort of be like, oh, what? Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's like I'll just be like, but with art, if I'm into it, I'll just be like, fucking, this is. Play it again. Yeah. Man, we are gonna kill it. Fuck. And it gives me this energy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
is it the sound first before any branding or videos or anything? Because a lot of things are quite video and brand led nowadays. Like, if you're straight music,
I see music visually. Like I hear it and then I see it.
Yeah.
Like I can.
That's
I'll
cold.
play out a scene, or I'll play out a movie, or I'll play out. Like I remember when I used to manage Pixie Geldof. She was in with this producer called Ludwig, and they were doing. We released one album, and it's a pretty cool album, man. And there was bits in it when I was like, man, like, she was like, what? And I was like, this song, like, I can see an LA setting. It's all grey, it's all black, and there's digital rainfall, but it's blood, like blood's falling digitally. Do you know what I mean? And it's like it's when it hits the water, it kind of doesn't dissolve. It sort of sets the water on fire a bit. And I remember just everyone thinking, what's this guy? But I was like, that song's creating this image in my mind. That's what I'm seeing. I'm just in this grey, barren landscape that's quite minimalist. But the rainfall's blood, and it's really like it's slick, but like when it lands, it kind of burns a bit. Like that. That's just what I'm.
That's crazy.
And but it's true. Like when I listen to certain songs, I see certain scenarios.
That's almost like upfront on first experience of the song. That kind of makes sense as a good A&R. If they can envisage that on the immediate impact of a song, then arguably you can forecast. You have a vision for the forecast of how it's going to work and how things are. So I get it when you say that, you know, seeing past the first year to the 10 years to the 25 years and knowing what that trajectory is. That comes with that, I think.
Yeah, it's difficult. Certain art, like, it depends. Look, artists make it because artists want it. Full stop. Like
and the management want it as well. I guess.
Yeah, but the artists have got to want it. Like amazing management can see it in an artist and just drive it on through. But amazing artists have to always be up there, and artists will drive it through. Like artists are those people who, they get told no, they get told no, they get told no, they get told no. Fuck it, I'm still going to do it. Where the danger is those artists who get told yes, 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 and it becomes really easy. Like, oh, it's just going to happen. And you're like, whoa, you need to find that balance. It's not just going to happen. Like, you have to... It's not like you... If you're in academia, you don't get A's at GCSEs, get A's at A-level, get a first-class honours degree, and then go, that's it, I'll put my feet up now because someone's going to hand me, like, £1 million job. It's like, no, you've got yourself in a good, strong position, but you've got to keep doing that forever. There's no... look at Simon Cowell. Like, that dude works his arse off for his money. He's on a plane backwards and forwards, and I don't care if people are like, oh, but he flies. He's earned the right to fly whatever class he wants to fly. And also, that doesn't take away from jet lag. Do you know what I mean? If you're like in LA on Monday, then in London on Wednesday, then in wherever on Saturday, then back to Japan on Monday, then back to LA, your circadian rhythms, your body clock, that's going to all be off. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what money you're getting, that's going to take its toll. And it does take its toll. I mean, I look at that year where we lost David Bowie and Prince, and like, ultimately for me,
I remember that.
What those guys were channeling,
painful that was
something else. Yeah. They were carrying
the earth lost a lot.
Yeah, like that was a big creative year there was a lot of creative souls who left us that year, and it's just kind of like, I think that was the year when George Michael died at Christmas time as well. Yeah. And it was just like all of these like immeasurable culture, genre-defying artists who've lived like 100 lives in one life, who still don't feel like they're gone because their presence is still here. Like I had that with Freddie Mercury. Yeah. Freddie Mercury and Queen always feel like someone else is discovering them every year. Like I heard a fact the other day that Bohemian Rhapsody, the DVD, sold over like 1.7 million copies. And no one buys DVDs. Not anymore.
Crazy.
Like, that's a serious volume of DVDs. All those people either big Queen fans or telling their children about them or
just getting
or
into
new
it.
people learning about Queen.
Glee kind of
Yeah,
audiences.
and you're like, well, that brand keeps going. I think that about AC/DC. I think,
Yeah.
like, when they were touring, I think they were the second biggest touring act of that year or that 2 years when they were touring a few years back. When Brian Johnson, I think, lost his hearing, and Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses had to step in. But it was like, what's going to happen when all those members pass away? Because people are still want to hear those songs live and go out.
Well, you've heard about Ozzy now. He's
have
got
beards,
Parkinson, you know.
Like,
Is it
what,
Parkinson's?
what
I think so.
happens there?
Yeah.
Like, because you can remake a film or you can reinterpret something, but how would you keep the music? How would you keep the music alive? Obviously, there's catalogue and you can keep syncing it and you can keep it in the public conscious. But how would you keep the experience of that live experience alive? Like, that's why I'm really grateful when I look back at certain acts and go, I saw Tom Petty live at the Royal Albert Hall.
Mad. Yeah,
I've
mad.
heard Tom Petty's live vocal in there, and he's gone now.
Yeah.
No one's getting that again.
Live is everything.
Yeah, that's gone. Do you know what I mean? I was there.
Yeah.
I've seen Tom Petty live. Like, stuff like that for me is like, that's where the magic is, because you're having an exchange, and in that moment, that's the fandom. Like, they're with you, you're with them. There's however many people in that space, and no social. You can catch it on social media, but it doesn't capture the magic of it. It doesn't capture like, I'm here, you're here, this is our moment. That's where it all is.
Longevity, innit? It's longevity, like, and you know, like you say, like the live aspect. We're talking about people like Tom Petty that, you know, died of reasonably after a long legacy. You know, we're talking about legacy artists here, and to your point earlier, a lot of artists just kind of aren't prepared for the full. It's almost like they haven't got. Sometimes they don't have the full vision of what they want.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story. I was with Sony BMG, and me and them parted ways, 2006. And it was so weird. Like, I'd been on there for like the best part of like 2 years, developing, and then I'd done a Roundtree's Fruit Pastel commercial, which did well. And then we all had to sit round in a board and try and work out, well, what did we learn here? You know what I mean? Because I had an album out, but I was selling fruit pastels, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, like I was with BMG, then that turned into Sony BMG, and then I remember just being confused and like thinking to myself, well, I had the vision of doing something as a bigger commodity to expose myself to a more commercial audience, thinking that it would be okay for an album to kind of follow through in that respect. They left the board meeting thinking, well, because, you know, you could just as well do an album that does that, and there's me beatboxing, blah, blah, blah. But at the time, that they just couldn't see it. And I remember being on stage with Pharrell at the Essential Festival, I think it was, and I got the call saying that, you know, they dropped us. I didn't think anything of it other than they didn't get it. They didn't get it. Maybe I didn't get it. Maybe there wasn't enough give on my album that could have predicted that kind of level of commerciality. Maybe I was too Radioheady. Maybe I was up my Prince arse or something. But I never for a second thought, what am I going to do now? I hate Mike Pickering for what he did to me. I love the dude. He helped me. You know what I mean? I didn't think anything of it other than, right, well, I've got to just re-up. Let's go on. I know where I've got to go. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think a lot of artists, I don't think enough artists think like that, because it's the be-all and end-all, isn't it? When you hit the pearly gates of a record label, to many people, especially people that have parents that have huge regard for the old guard, and they want their kids to succeed. It's quite hard for bands and acts to really face that reality when it happens, right?
Getting dropped, if it happens. Yeah, it's the same. I mean, I've seen it with a lot of executives who get let go. Do you know what I mean? Who've given their lifeblood, time, energy, hours, to it. It's difficult. I mean, from a creative point of view, I'm just trying to think of examples where, I've seen artists get dropped and then it'd be the best thing in the world for them. They go off and they become bigger, better versions of them. I've seen an artist get dropped by a label, then have someone in the wider corporate structure of that company get a massive sync, and then that label re-sign that artist back to the same label.
I bet that's happened a few times,
and then get dropped again by that label. I've seen artists find. And I'm talking some of the biggest contemporary artists that we've got at the moment. I've seen labels put on showcases for them, pay for the first EP, pay for the first demo, and then not sign them up, and then another label sign them up, and they go off and become the thing. I've seen artists be signed into the corporate grouping in a different territory, and then everyone in our territory, the UK, pass on it, and then it's signed into a different corporate group for the UK, and then they become humongous. So it's kind of like it's a strange being, but the whole point is like someone getting dropped is not a negative thing, because they're going to do whatever they're going to do, because whether or not someone says they don't believe in it or they don't think it's right is irrelevant. If the artist believes in it, and the management and the team around that artist believe it, it's going to happen.
Anyway,
It's happening. Do you know what I mean? It's happening. I've seen artists be on a label, get dropped by a label. The album they release independently, which they might source funding from their fan base, be the biggest selling album they have. They then sign those rights into like a corporation, and then sign 3 other albums that don't work. And it's that one album where they were on their own, it was where the magic was. Do you know what I mean? So if you're creative, it's not the be all and end all. It's not the be all and end all. But ultimately, the way I view my role in a major label is, if I'm signing someone, I'm not trying to drop someone. Like I'm trying to make it work and work and work. And everyone in that label is trying to make it. The people I work with at Island are just they're wicked, man. They're like they're family, and it's like we're all in it together. We all care, otherwise we wouldn't chase the deal down. We're not a market share company. We're not trying to sign things just because they make commercial sense. We're trying to sign something because we believe in the culture, where it comes from, what the message and the music is, and who they are as creative entities. That's why we sign them.
I think there's a sweet spot to A&Rs in the same way there's a sweet spot to producers, where you're in that perfect place of being able to look back at some of the best artists that have had their careers, and you're looking forward into the new shit. And there is an age bracket. I swear there is. I think you're in that sweet spot where you're able to forecast based on some of the things you've seen at the back, to some of the things that are happening at the front. It must be a really fucking cool place to be, huh?
It is. I think that's why I think people always blows my mind when people don't like the aging process.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's so much to gain from getting older and experience and learning. When people hold on to youth, like I'm just like, I get holding on to the energy that keeps you young, but from an aesthetic point of view, I'm like, I don't get that. There's so much more. Like I said earlier on, like I just want to keep learning. Do you know what I mean? For me, that's the goal, just connecting with similar minds, similar energies, and that's what inspires me. Obviously, like you've got your look, you've got your swag, you always want to come correct sort of thing, but it's kind of like, I think you will, because you dress appropriate to who you are as a person and stuff. But yeah, I don't get the fear of age thing, but I get to the point that you were making about there's a sweet spot. I guess there is a sweet spot, but you have to earn that sweet spot.
Hell
and ultimately, you only get the sweet spot because you earned it, and you were listening, and you were trying to find it. Because I definitely see A&Rs who are younger, they've got to go through the moves. They've got to win that deal on their own for the first time.
They're a little bit green.
They have to be able. Like for me, you aren't an A&R person. You are not an A&R person unless you can close a deal on your own. You can convince the solicitor, the manager, the artist, the family that you are the person to guide this person's life and career in the right way by listening to them, amplifying and encouraging them. You are not A&R. You might be learning the ropes of it, but I had to stand on my own, and all those A&R people who have really made it and had careers, there's a point where it's all on you to bring this artist into the company. It's all on you.
Oh, G's inside the bill and tell it like it is. Exactly. Know your craft and own that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must be such a job, climbing that ladder, and each elevator stop, ringing the bell, saying, "Look, I've got this is happening." I'll go upstairs and tell them upstairs. Go up to tell the marketing, tell the head of marketing, tell the solicitor, tell the. I mean, yeah, it takes some
Yeah,
fucking balls with those big machines, man.
Yeah, you're
It
having
really
a lot,
does.
but it's the same on the marketing side. If you're in marketing, there's a lot of pressure on marketeers because you've got A&R going, I've signed this record, I've made this record. Everyone thinks, like I said, I don't like using the word hit, but everyone thinks this is the moment.
Yeah.
So you've got managers going, right, the video needs to be like this. You've got press going, I need the song to go out here in order to align it with these photo shoots. You've got sync going to the marketing person when we've got this potential opportunity, so you're going to have to move. And the market have got control, this whole mad octopus. Do you know what I mean? Where there's all these different things, and it's like, so there's different there's different creative bits of the label that all have their own little battles and wars. It's the same like if you've got a killer song and and your Instagram's flying and the marketing plan's intact, the video isn't right.
Yeah.
We need to release it. We need the video now. Like,
How much of that? Just while we're on the subject. So, if you had a delivered record and it was fucking pinging, how from that moment there, how long is the lead up time to a release between you and the market?
There's no rules.
No rules.
Like, you could sign a record today. It could come out. What is it today?
It's Wednesday the 22nd.
Yeah, Wednesday. It could come out Friday.
Really?
Do you know what I mean? You could sign a record that had already been out a week,
Really?
and now you're gonna keep adding.
So there's no rules to this
There's no
per
rules.
se.
There's no.
It's changed in
There's
that.
no rules. I think
Yeah.
ultimately when you sign it and you start building and you plot a plan. If you're signing an act and you're just building, you're building. If you're going for like we want to win the BBC Sound Poll next year, then there's a plan. Then there's we're going to have to do these things. Like, media are going to have to see certain things. Have you sold out this venue? Are you growing on socials? Are you... Do you know what I mean? That's the mechanics of it, that everyone wants to be like, yeah, I'm not involved in that. I'm not interested in that. But if you're winning those sort of things... That's the machine
the ultimate
you're entering. If you're like, you know
fireworks,
what, fuck you, fuck that, I'm releasing what I want to win. I don't give a toss about all of these things. Do what you're doing. Don't mean just make the art go.
In a wily
make
kind of
everyone
way.
into it. Yeah, just do it.
Just
Stick
do it, yeah.
around. Just make those big songs where everyone goes, yeah.
Do artists like Wiley? Do they intimidate a marketing A&R team? Do they? Because
I don't know. I've never worked with Wiley.
But just as an example, like no, I mean more so those forthright artists that have already like carved their shit, and they're almost against the machine sometimes. They want to run fast. It's almost like an athleticism towards the machine. Signing those kind of characters must be quite a challenge in the grand scheme of things.
I think all artists are challenges. I think some of the artists that look like they're a challenge on the outside might actually be easy to work with.
Yeah.
I've worked with people who like seem like they're challenges, but like they know what work needs to go to make their brand keep ticking over. So it's like you can have conversations with them and go X, Y, and Z, and they go X, Y, and Z. And you're like, spot on. And then you do it.
So they're
I've
calculated.
seen other people who come across, oh, they must be the loveliest, easiest bubblegum people in the world. And you're like, I've got no words to describe the experience. Do you know what I mean? And like, just wow.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, wow.
Really.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And you're just like, genuine, where you're just like,
Dumbfounded. What?
yeah, like, wow.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. It's like for me, it's not always judge a book by its cover thing. It's just kind of like, it's like there's a theatre to it as well. Some of these people know who they are and know who to challenge, how to channel who they are. So for me, it's just a bit like they know what they're doing. Do you know what I mean?
So that you know in your head.
Yeah, like because I think if you've had a career as long as certain people have had a career, and you want to keep having a career, and you want to afford to still have a career, like if you're the pantomime villain, if you're the pantomime villain, you can do that for X amount of years, but then you have to drop a massive song for people to go, pantomime villain, but banger. Like you know that about yourself and your business, so it's kind of like, and it depends when you're dealing with that character in that phase.
They know it. I like that. I like
They know it. They know themselves. They totally know themselves. There's obviously people who struggle with the whole machinery of it, and sadly, they also know themselves and know that they can't deal with the machinery of it. But that's a wider kind of life conversation.
right. Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
wider
totally.
life conversation where, and I definitely feel like labels where we are now, there's a whole duty of care that we have where we want to be supporting everyone and anyone, artists and execs who need support. Like I definitely feel like the creative industries are in a place where like we're aware of that. Do you know what I mean? Like no one is sleeping on that. That everyone's door is open. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a normal thing. Like, I've gone through tough times myself in the industry, which I've got through them on my own. But like I'm a character who like welcomes the fight. But like I'm thinking, shit, if I've gone through some of this stuff and I'm kind of built to fight, like, whoa, this is tough.
Tell me your hard times. What are your hard times overall in the industry? You said you go through hard times. What? Give me some examples yourself personally.
One of the companies I was at towards the end of it, I definitely felt, and I'd been there a long time, and I give them everything. Like, what you see is what you get. I kind of put all my energy into it. Like, I feel like the years I give them were like double because it was the day shift hours of 9:30 to 6:30. But during that period of my life, I was giving them 6:30 to 5 in the morning, like at least 2 or 3 times a week. Do you know what I mean? So I think the people then knew I give my all to it. The artists knew I give my all, and like you got to balance it. In the decade I was there, 7 of those years were the best. Do you know what I mean? And they were best, and I was kind of like constantly progressing upwards. And then I kind of hit a ceiling where I kind of felt I've been ghosted a bit, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's a bit cold, and like you, as a father, I was a dad then, so I was like, I'm getting great money,
Yeah.
boo-hoo, I'm getting paid a lot, and I'm having a hard time. But there's the reality of like, how long is this going to last now? Like, it doesn't matter what act I bring in, nothing's good enough. Do you know what I mean? There's like nothing is good enough. Like I could sign all these things, and it's like, but that band's not recouped, and I expected more from that act, and like that's great, but it's not as good as that, and that's yes, you had a lot of success with that single, but the second single flopped. There was every act that I was having success with. The only thing that was highlighted was the negative bit of the campaign.
No matter
instead
how
of the
good you
positive.
did, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I get this. And it carried on, and I was like, is this trying to make me feel so uncomfortable that I leave? Is this the end of me music? I've done my thing now, and like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, whoa.
Is this how it
can't
plays
leave
out?
now.
Yeah.
Like, I've got so much more to offer.
Yeah.
But where it got dangerous was, and I love coming to work, I've always been happy with the musician, I never felt down, I love all the artists, because you have your internal relationship with the people you're working with, and then you have your external one, which is the wider music industry. When you're in publishing, you're dealing with labels. When you're at labels, you're dealing with publishers. And it was that kind of wider thing of like, and I'm just being honest here, it was that thing where I was just like, do I even want to do this anymore? And when that question entered my head, I was like, okay, like, this is a hard time. The fact that it's a complete rational, considered thought that I've just had with my wife, like at 7:30 in the evening when I've came back early one night and gone, I don't know if it's time to like look for other creative avenues. I've got lots of ideas. The fact that I actually had that conversation is like,
That scare you? Did it
that
scare
for
you?
me was a moment, like that was like it was just a sad moment of like, wow, I've been doing this so long now that like it's a consideration that I would give up my energy to this business.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When all I've ever done is give everything, because all I ever want is to be involved in this business. And I was like, whoa, like what's going on? So that for me was like, people super close to me got it and knew it, but like I'm very good at just dealing with stuff on my own. Do you know what I mean? And I've got understanding family and who've been around me through all those periods where they've always allowed me to be me and always saw that even when I'm being nuts and off the cuff, which was quite a lot back in the day. They always knew it was coming from a place of like love and passion, and kind of them not wanting to rein my energy in.
Yeah. I think it's damage limitation. Like if you're able to own your own faults and mistakes, because you were saying you quite like dealing with things yourself.
Yeah.
Is that a protective thing that allows you to, okay, well, if that takes a hit, it's my fault. You know what I mean? Is it that kind of thing?
For me, I respect the art of cancer, and I respect the art of therapy. I respect the art of people doing that, because it's one of the ways to heal, to get better. For me, I personally, for me, come from like I gotta work this out myself. Like there's a lesson here, and like I'm a student. I love studying. I mean, I love learning. Like I love reading. I love listening. I love watching films. Like I love watching films from different angles. And it's like for me, and like, what's the message here? Why is this happening? And like, it's helped me get less. As a kid, I lost my best friend when I was younger. So like for me, there was anger there because of that I'd never really acknowledged. That I constantly saw injustice and stuff, and I was constantly like fighting battles I didn't really need to fight. And like I used to run a club night in Camden, which is quite successful.
Where are you from originally? Where's your
A
hometown?
little town called Billingham near Middlesbrough.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was because of, it was quite a sleepy town, but there was a lot of time to read mags, watch films, listen to music, hang out, and just
The best shit.
and study. Yeah, study. I think if there was a lot of opportunity to do other things, I wouldn't have fallen into music, because I was studying for a role I didn't know was coming in later life.
Yeah,
Do you know,
yeah.
and I was like, reading and listening to
Totally.
music and listening to B-sides, and like
Agreed.
me and my bro would be in our room with our mates, just literally like listening to like albums and albums and albums, and watching DVDs,
Yeah.
and then, like making cassette tapes,
That's the shit.
and then sharing
Yeah.
it. Do you know what I mean? But
You
it was
don't realise
all-
it at the time that there's something that sets.
studying.
Let's listen.
yeah,
There's
and then
skill sets.
we were A&Ring going like, what? I like that song. I'm like, why do the drums do that midway through? Or like, wish he didn't end it like that, or like that weird sound effect. Do you know what I mean? We were like A&R in records, not knowing what we were doing.
It's crazy.
So just for me, like I've always tried to work stuff out for myself, but my therapy comes from everybody, because I'm always listening. So I see life as one big therapy session. So I could be sat there like thinking something, and someone could go off and say something about their hard time, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's free
Look at
therapy.
the podcast world, man.
Yeah, it's
It's surreal.
It's free therapy. So I was sort of doing, when people are learning from podcasts, I was just doing that from normal conversations, because as much as I can talk, and people who know me can go, I can talk, and I can do it, I'm always listening. Even when I'm talking, I'm listening.
I've noticed
Do you know
that
what I
about
mean?
you.
I'm taking
I have.
photographs everywhere. Like I know where everything's positioned. Like when I look around the room, I'm like, all right, I see where it all is. I see what the vibe is.
What do you see here?
I see a podcast studio.
There you go, baby.
Yeah.
I want to.
I see a nice Notorious B.I.G. Riker Buddha. I've got one of these.
Yeah, you
I
got
love
one.
Riker. I love
Yeah,
Riker.
hold tight, hold
Shout
tight.
out Riker. Shout out
Riker
Ryan
for
Callahan. What a talent he is.
I know, man. I know.
My house is a bit like an art museum, and there's a lot
I
of
love that shit.
There's a lot of Riker pieces in
Yeah.
there. I've got a lot of Riker pieces.
Oh, I love
I'm a
Riker,
big fan
man.
of Riker.
Hell yeah. And on that note, let you creatives go about your business. You've just been schooled by a craftsman in his career. You know, man of many opinions and ideas, and bringing things to fruition every fucking year. Thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate you coming through.
Pleasure.
A&R's
Thanks for having me.
finest.
Pleasure.
Legendary, all right? Stay locked on the KILLA podcast. We're going to give it to you raw. Don't forget to subscribe. You stay lucky, don't speak to any strange women, especially, all right? Cheers, brother. Peace.